Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, All Things in Prosa. So the portfolio committee had a meeting on the 10th of June where the University of Cape Town gave their briefing on the overall management of the university. So Honourable Msizane from the MK party raised very important questions regarding accommodation. So guys, apparently the accommodation at UCT is super expensive. Like even NSFAS has put a cap on the accommodation, and the university is expecting students to pay the difference. Like if NSFAS pays 5,000 and the accommodation is 16,000, it means that the students should pay the difference. I mean, I don't know a student who goes to NSFAS when they have the money. We go to NSFAS because we cannot afford, So that was one of the burning questions. And another question was on the foreign nationals that are employed by the UCT. The honorable member wanted to know if they are offering scarce skills. I thought this question was very important considering what is happening in the country. So it shows that the honorable member is aware of the political landscape or the country, what the country's issues are. And another question was on the African students doing way not being successful in their academics as compared to the other races. So let's take a listen to this conversation.
Honourable Msizane of this portfolio committee, I apologize for being late, Chair. The traffic these days here in Cape Town is doing wonders. I'm not sure, maybe those governing are very upset. I think it's deliberate, so I was late due to traffic. I am the member of this portfolio committee deployed by Mkondo Wesizwe Party. Maybe, Chair, I'll try to be also precise because time is very limited. My first question goes to the DVC academic and the Vice Chancellor. I noted in your slides, I can't remember the number of the slide, but it clearly indicates that the percentage for success rate of undergraduates, particularly African nationals, native Africans, is very low compared to all other races that are there. And there's a significant decline that is noted for 2021 and obviously slightly going up at 2022, but still very, very low. What is the cause for this low success rate for African students? What has been done to change this, particularly as it should relate on your transformation agenda as UCT? That's my first question. That is to you, VC, and the DVC academic.
Honourable Chair, through you, if I may respond. Thank you. Honourable Member, yes, you have identified a particular dip that took place in 2021 for all students, the post-COVID dip as we've termed it. On that same graph, I hope you will also have noticed how over the last few years there's been quite a significant recovery in success rates and across all groups. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that and also identify some of the things that we're doing to address some of the issues that you're referring to. In 2021, the point that you identified there, the difference between this is for the overall undergraduate pass rates for courses. The difference between the African coloured and Indian group, if you cluster those together in the white, was 15%, and now in 2025 it's 7%. So there's just to indicate there's been a significant change in the differential between the two. But also importantly, what has happened is over that time, the increase in the success rate of courses in that African coloured and Indian grouping from 2021 to 2025 has also increased by 12% up to 89% now.
So can I just interject you? You are the DVC academic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question was very precise. Now you're going to other places where I did not ask you, and I have very short time. So in all the groupings, I'm not a person of graphs. I did try maths to a particular level, grade 11, I believe. But I'm not a person of graphs. But reading that one is very simple for me to interpret. The African students are below all the other groupings, according to this graph, unless I'm reading it wrong. Maybe you can assist me. So I'm very intentional about my question on what is the cause for the African child. What has been done to assist them as it pertains to your transformation agenda, unless in your transformation agenda, you're not looking at how you can improve the success rate of undergraduate in African students. So could you just be precise so that I get to my many other questions?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Yes, I'll return to that directly. So, as a consequence of the Rose Must Fall and Fees Must Fall protest that took place at UCT, the Curriculum Change Working Group was established around 2017, 2018, and a very deliberate plan was set in place from that moment onwards to address exactly the point that you are talking about. And we as part of our Vision 2030 agenda, there was significant funding that was made available to faculties to identify areas that can be improved to ensure that our students, particularly our African students, are able to be successful in their studies. And if you'll allow me, I can talk to one or two specific instances where we've made interventions that have been particularly useful. Honourable Member, can I do so? Great, thanks. So, of course, this is across the different faculties, and I'm going to talk to just a handful of them, because I know you have limited time. But what I do want to just talk to are for example, in the Commerce faculty, as an example, one of the significant issues that we've got, particularly in the large quantitative subjects, are students entering these subjects when they're ill-prepared. And so we've developed quite a successful self-assessment tool for students to really be able to understand whether they have the chance to be successful. That we're using a significant number of curriculum interventions. For example, in civil engineering, there's a complete change to the curriculum to embrace the notion of locally relevant examples, project-linked learning, etc., to enable students to be able to be successful. And particularly to your point directly, I'm wanting to talk to specifically about two projects in the humanities faculty, which I think will identify exactly the kinds of interventions that we're making. The first is the integration of the Kanisa courses into the departmental curricula, and I really just want to highlight this. So what we've done is these courses are pedagogically enriched and decolonial first-year courses, and they've been directly integrated into the curricula, and they use content that engages students' diverse life worlds, foregrounds, African locations, supports academic literacies. It very importantly includes multilingual and digital pedagogies. And so you can see this is just an example of the kinds of things that we're doing to really try and influence or impact on all our students' ability to be successful, particularly those of our African students who as you identified earlier, have not been as successful as their white counterparts. But I do want to just once again re-emphasize that gap is closing quite quickly. And from 2021 to 2024, you would have noticed on that graph the narrowing of that gap, specifically as I identified earlier on in my response. Honourable Chair, I can continue, but I don't want to take this Honourable Member's time unless you'd like me to dig deeper into that.
No, it's fine, TVC. Let me put it to you and the Vice-Chancellor that I'm not convinced of what you are saying. Mm-hmm. Firstly, you mentioned, if you could just switch off your mic, you mentioned the curriculum, I think, design, as you put it. I'm not sure what you are implying on our African students to say that they don't comprehend your curriculum as per the counterparts that are white. Is that your assertion? Because I'm trying to understand. I wanted the cause for which our African students, as these honourable members stop disturbing me on my left, I wanted to understand why or what is the cause for it and what have you done. So now I'm not convinced, and I think if I had more time, we'll really focus on this. You speak about the post-COVID dip in 2021, yet in 2020 there was somewhat an increase in terms of the success rate of the African child. So I'm looking at your graph now, and in all you are saying, they still are below all the other races in your institution. So in all you've said, I can just put it to you that I'm not convinced, but I think, at another time, maybe in writing you could write to us as the portfolio committee to make us understand, because I'm particularly interested in why a black child does not go beyond, because if you speak about success rate, it means that they don't graduate, or they don't graduate in time. And then when you mention the curriculum, I think you just took me off route. But let us pause it at that, and obviously I'll request through the chair that to give it to us in writing on what is the cause and what you've done to ensure that at least they get beyond the threshold to finish line. Let me then deal with the issue of foreign nationals. This is a very concerning and topical issue that we are currently observing and dealing with as a country. The presenter was presenting on foreign nationals, professionals, was clear. I'm not sure if she said it as means of appeasing us as the portfolio committee as we speak about foreign nationals having to provide scarce skills as per legislation. But the presenter was clear that they are providing scarce skill. So I just want the presenter or someone responsible to put it on record that all your academic staff as presented are providing scarce skill in the institution. I just want that on record. Then we'll request it to be sent to us as a breakdown of the work that they are doing. And obviously, if they possess verified work visas for those particular scarce skills. But I want it on record.
We'll put it on record, Chair, and we'll provide the information. Thank you. The Honourable Member Msizane is requesting that we put it on record that the academics that we employ are providing scarce skills.
All of them, VC.
So the question is, not only academics, it's all your foreign nationals who are working at UCT. How many are they? Almost 900.
Yeah, about 20%. Yeah.
Yeah, about 900. So are all of them possessing or in critical skills list and having legitimate work visas? That's the question.
Okay, let me ask EDHR if she wants to tackle that. But I had understood the Honourable Member to say that he just wanted to confirm that that's what we said and that we can provide the details. But to your question, I'll ask EDHR if she wants to address that.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for the question. I did note the request for us to give formal feedback on the academics, so that's noted. When it comes to the PAS staff category, mostly our PAS staff, as I had presented, is South African workforce. They are of the foreign nationals. What is important to note as well is that we also have a scarce and critical skills list. And yes, some PAS staff members form part of that scarce and critical skills. There are, however, historical issues that we are dealing with. A small proportion of those, Honourable Member, are not on the scarce and critical skills. Yeah. We have a plan in place to deal with that aspect. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair. So my problem is, you see, even in school, teachers used to applaud me for listening and passing. When I was absent, I did not do so well. But when I listen attentively. So when you presented, you said, the academic staff that we have that are foreign nationals are providing scarce skill. So I wanted to confirm, that's why I said to the Vice Chancellor, I want the Vice Chancellor to confirm in yourself that those that you account for as academic staff are providing scarce skill. Therefore, you will then be able to provide to the committee the number of these academic staff, the work that they are hired to do, which you're saying is their scarce skill, and their verified work visas. Now you are changing your presentation. That is not what you said to us. You said to us what I'm saying, though, and you said in line with our international policy. Vice Chancellor, if you could just get in, if I'm misinterpreting the presenter's sentiments on this matter.
No, maybe let me defend there. The Vice Chancellor did indicate that all of the academic staff are providing scarce skills. Now, and I came in and I said, all foreign nationals. So she's responding to your question was responded. I think even when she started, she said, all academic staff are critical skills list. But I said, are you saying everybody, including PAS people? She's saying only a small portion. But she's saying this small portion is legacy or historic issues. It's not issues that resurfaced now. That's what you are saying, right? So the question on academic staff was responded to. Where they've not responded is the issue of legitimate work visas. Are you saying this critical skills list have these legitimate papers? VC maybe wanted to get in or here, I don't know.
Thank you, Chair. On the question of legitimacy, in terms of working in South Africa, we do ensure that people who work at UCT have valid papers, valid work permits to be able to work within South Africa. Where perhaps there may be instances where a work visa expires, we deal with that on an individual basis. But in terms of how we operate, we need to make sure that people who work in South Africa have valid papers to be able to do so. I hope that answers the question. And as I say, where maybe, there's no, it expires, a work permit expires, then we have a process of how to deal with that. And that is dealt with on an individual basis, which is not the case, which is a very, very small number. I think at the moment we're sitting at about 2 of those examples. But overall, everybody who is there has a valid work permit.
Yeah, no, thank you for your response. So, Chair, where I wanted my clarity was on what was initially presented, not the second part where the Chair was then seeking clarity on the question that I had posed to you, because when you presented, you were clear, you did not add that aspect of other legacy issues. So I wanted that clarity, but obviously we'll await then that report in writing. So I was very concerned about the SRC not touching on many other sensitive and topical issues in your university, particularly the issue that I was raising on the success rate at undergrad level of African students, and amongst other issues. But I just want to get a response from yourself on the issue that I think is a point of contention for you in your university as the SRC that represents students there. Why do you insist that the university-owned residences must be exempted from the NSFAS cap?
Okay. I'm not sure if I can continue to answer, Chair. Okay, thank you. So the reason behind this is because the Chair have indicated maybe St. Peter's, Oxford, Rochester, Caseville. As the SRC, we've also engaged with these universities. With St. Peter's, at the moment, it's above 70,000 rands. It is a shared room, unlike Oxford, which is a single room. So we have taken all those things into consideration. Taking it into consideration, we felt that we need to come up with something that the students are not going to incur debt. That's why we're saying exempt university-owned buildings. And then if they're inflating prices, there should be a way that the department, the portfolio committee, or NSFAS, they hold these accommodation people into account. For an example, in 2023, NSFAS promised to take them to Competition Commission Act, which we support that stance. So our position is to try to come up with a situation where a student is not going to incur any shortfall, they're able to register, and they're able to do their postgrad. So that's our stance. We want a solution that students are not going to owe. Thank you.
Chair, maybe as a parting shot, because I'm not, this one would take forever if I have to follow up. I think you'll do justice to this particular point. I just want to get from the university. So there is list, in your presentation, there is list accommodation, there is NSFAS accredited accommodation, then there is university owned, which the SRC is saying must be exempted from the cap. So I just want to know from a person responsible for accommodation. So when you lease an accommodation, you make the terms as the university to say, we'll give you a contract based on these conditions, including the pricing. So why do you not, when you obviously issue invitations and conditions to giving a contract, ensure that those that are getting contracts are within the NSFAS cap? And please don't give us this, you won't get accommodation, because this is a very competitive space, and we know that there's many empty buildings that would want to take in students. And based on your conditions that you put when you are issuing contracts or interest, you may be able to put in the conditions.
Made the point.
Thank you. Firstly, I want to apologize, Chair, for shaking my head.
No, I understood the neck was not, you're not shaking, you're stretching the neck.
That was passion in contestation, Chair, especially the part where you were suggesting that we at UCT are manufacturing residence costs, because that would be a serious indictment. When I listened to you further, you seem to be suggesting that we are charging these fees for a bed, which from my presentation, it was very clear that you will not guarantee student success if you think that student housing is just a bed. And we agree 100% with the SRC on how those who inflate prices must be dealt with. When you compare residences, it is important that you are comparing apples with apples. Not all universities offer what we offer as UCT as a one fee if you're staying in a residence. Sometimes you have extra costs that are not communicated, and the student only finds out when they arrive. So Wi-Fi just being one example. We have also become aware that universities cross-subsidize residences. So it's not enough to see residences that are in the same suburb, because universities whose residences for students are 100% in that one suburb will not be able to cross-subsidize from other residences that may be in areas that are affordable. You've spoken about the 21 million going into residence life. That's the amount that is handled by students themselves. We take student leadership very seriously, including managing budgets. UCT is one university where you won't hear of festivals on weekends, where you have DJs playing for whatever hours. We have students who think very carefully about entertainment that is fitting with a learning and living environment. So we have these house committees curating activities that allow for students to have a social life. But that amount would come to zero, nil, if not supported by staff. And the bulk of funds that support our residences go to staff. Because to learn how to budget properly, you are going to need that administrator in a residence who takes students through how to manage budgets and all of that. And like I said, we insourced at UCT. Insourcing means we also pay attention to staff development. So when you say we must reduce to the bare minimum, you are throwing away staff, including students, staff who are mentors and tutors to support the academic project. Now, in terms of contracts that we sign, leased accommodation, as I indicated, there are very few in our space. We have the bulk, and we really, if it were up to us, we wouldn't go anywhere else. So we have 2 residences in public works and 3 in leased private accommodation. They obviously have to look around and see what others who are in business are able to offer to be able to fill their beds. I mean, we have currently one leased residence that is not full to capacity because students have a choice, and we're not going to stand in their way. So we have to sign contracts that are viable for those private accommodation providers.
So
what we insist on are the minimum standards, including Wi-Fi. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're saying other institutions don't have, because that's part of the norms and standards. So when you put student accommodation, you are obliged to have security. You are obliged to have Wi-Fi. So all other residences have got the same issues. So the rest I stayed in 20 years ago at Piers Langa residence at UKZN had an RA, residence assistants, which is the staff. We had security. So all other, what you are telling me, I've not seen something exceptional. Why must it be expensive? You are saying to Honourable Msizane, yes, we advertise, I'll give you VC. Yes, we advertise, but we don't determine the price. That's what you are saying to me. You're saying we must be competitive to those people. It must be, that's what you are saying. Msizane says when you apply, when you advertise to this, to accredit this, why don't you, if you are really serious about the cost of these young people, students who are unable to progress and register without signing AODs and not, signing AODs and all of that, why don't you, when you advertise and say, at least accommodation here is going to be for NSFAS students. And because NSFAS pays 6,000, the highest you are going to charge us is 6,000. If you really care about this NSFAS student, because when you have NSFAS students, reality is, government has done an assessment and government says, from birth, I've given this child a grant to say their parents don't afford. When they go to university, the government says, I'm going to pay accommodation, tuition, personal care, living allowance to this child because they don't have anything. And if you put them in accommodation, because they're desperate, they come from Bloemfontein, Northern Cape, they come from Soweto, they come from all different parts, they have nowhere else to stay. They are going to stay in this expensive accommodation because they have no choice, literally. So you can't say it's their fault they're staying there. Why can't you, when you advertise for these leases, to say, because of this problem that you and NSFAS and the department must resolve as parents, yourselves, because we have not resolved this problem, let's not put these kids in debt. That's the whole argument here. Because since 2023, I can ask you to give us how many leases have you signed with these people. You have signed new leases at these exorbitant prices, knowing very well that these students who don't have money to pay this gap will suffer.
So, Chair, we prefer that students stay in our residences. That's also NSFAS policy. Campus residence is a preferred option. We don't want to even lease. Thank you.
No, you do have leases. You have signed leases. After the cap was introduced, you have signed leases. And you have signed leases that are above the cap. And you have taken NSFAS students to go stay there. It's yourselves who have done so. So whether you want students to stay in your residences or not, it's neither here nor there.
If there are residences within safe community environments where the shuttle can reach them, what will stop us from looking at those as options, not as first preference?
Did you hear what I'm... No, hold on.
I'm hearing.
I'm going to... You are making me lose my temper, and I don't want to lose my temper. Trust me, I know how to lose temper. I don't want to.
Can I intervene, Chair?
Yeah, but I'm saying, you have signed leases after 2023. You have signed leases after 2023. The leases that you have signed, you had advertised them yourself. The same ones you signed, you advertised them. The question is, if you care so much, as you claim here, about these students, about the gap, NSFAS gap, why when you advertised, did you not say, I'm not going to lease accommodation? That's above the cap, and I put students in debt. Because your argument earlier on is that if we don't give them, they are going to take private students. Let them try. And let's see if they are going to survive, those business people. But you have signed a lease that is above the cap. You have put NSFAS funded students in the accommodation that is above the cap. So yourself, you have played a role in indebting these kids, yourself. And I'm asking, that's the question from Honourable Msizane. Why did you not determine the price? If you care, if it was me, let me tell you, if it was me, I would have said, SRC, let's sit down. We've been listing this 2,400. It's listed and accredited, 2,400. This 2,400, they are going to be less than, please speak low, Honourable Christian. They are going to be for NSFAS accredited or NSFAS funded. If we care, we could have done so. And the point is we have not done so. Yes, VC.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, with respect, the conversation is becoming a slippery slope that I think we need to just be careful on how to address it. Let me address the point that Honourable Msizane is making in terms of the negotiation of terms with the private owners. I think that you are right that we choose who's going to be a service provider to us. There are certain standards that we want to have met. Within the university, we ensure high standard at a cost that you have seen. You may disagree that that cost for university owned is higher than CPUT or someone else. That's fine. But we can demonstrate to you that we don't make any profit from it. No profit from it. All of it goes into the services that we provide to the student. First of all, please do not pit us against other universities. We want to build a PSET sector. We want to make sure that our students have conducive learning environment. So we ask that you allow us to be able to set that standard in what we provide for the student that we believe is conducive to their learning. If we don't do that, you're going to come back and say, why are the students living in residence not passing? When the graph shows that they are not performing well. So we ask you to work with us to be able to determine that standard of the quality of living for residences and make sure that the cost at which we pay there, it is meeting that standard and there is no profit to it. It all goes into the services. When we go to list properties, we want to make sure that that same standard is met. Unfortunately, that same standard that we have in our residences in list properties is going to come at a slightly higher cost than we have, which is also one of the reasons why the student leaders are saying, actually, let's make sure that we privilege university-owned residences, recognizing that we don't have full control over private residences. But the standard has to be the same. We can't have one student living in a university-owned residence having a different standard compared to a student who is in a privately owned residence. Now, we can go into the details of how that works, the areas that we are operating in as UCT. It's easy to say that you can determine the price and all of that. That's not how the markets work. So I want to ask that we be careful in how we handle this topic, but also I want to ask that we do not come here and come across as if we want to imply that other universities are offering less services. We want to offer a full package of services for the students, a full package of services. So with due respect, Chair, I just ask that on the accommodation cap, you may defend NSFAS. We don't agree with NSFAS. NSFAS owes us 540 million. That is due to us. They do not acknowledge that debt. And if it comes to a point where we have to debate the matter in court, then let it be. But right now, what we want to ask is, let's make sure that we put the student in the center of this, and we try to focus on the struggles that the students are facing because of the student debt. And last time we agreed that we want to have a collective way of solving the problem. We are trying to be reasonable, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we can provide the standards of services that we seek to provide at UCT. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't agree. Honourable Msizane.
No, thanks, Chair. I think maybe as well as just my parting shot as well on the matter since the Vice-Chancellor has come in.
I thought you were... No, you did not.
No, Chair, but this was my point, and I'm asking for your indulgence.
No, stop being disruptive. Honourable Msizane, continue.
May I beg your indulgence, Chair, because this is the point that I had raised and it's not satisfactory. Just want to make a short point in a minute or two at least. Chair, we've made a very, very crucial point. Some of us studied with NSFAS with no one at home to support us with even 200. We have students now that are troubling us because of these additional monies that they incur in residence, that they can't even see their results because they're incurring debt. So the Vice-Chancellor says we must put the students at the center of this argument. We are, in fact, as voted members of parliament, putting poor students at the center of what you are doing, regardless of you making profit or not. You make the conditions of a leased residence. NSFAS has a budget in which they can fund what they are funding. So what you are saying, the surplus cannot be then incurred by a black poor students that cannot afford to pay it, either or, because if we look at these numbers, in fact, in writing, if the university can give it to us from 2023 to 2026, the numbers from the 3,000, which is close to 16 or 18,000 now, that would have incurred a surplus of debt due to this practice. How many of them have graduated if they having to have paid the following year to register because they have incurred debt? So we are putting students at the center, Chair, and you are rightfully emphasizing this point because we're not going to agree with UCT in making their services the best in the country, if we're not comparing, if obviously on the point, but we are at the center of saying a poor student cannot afford to pay the surplus that they incur through this practice. That is my parting shot, Chair.
Yeah, we'll come in, VC. Let me tell you, I know I've noted your DM. It's not true that